Hello everyone, Happy New Year and welcome to a review for a game I've been playing for almost a month now, Animal Crossing New Horizons. Now I did a good thing bad thing for this video, but I figured it'd be worth it to review this game as well. After all, it truly is one of the greatest games in the Switch library in my opinion. Okay, so yeah, that's basically my opinion on the game. But why do I feel that way? Well, let's go over some important factors in the game, give each factor a grade, and then we'll give a final grade at the end. Sound good? Alright, let's get started. Okay, so we first have what I always say is the most important part of a game, the actual gameplay. And this is where we get the addictiveness of Animal Crossing, as the gameplay is quite fun. As I said in the good thing bad thing, I was initially skeptical of how much I could truly do in this game, but I quickly realized there was a lot to do. I gained knowledge from YouTube videos saying things like 15 things to do every day in Animal Crossing New Horizons, and I would do a lot of those 15 things. You can chop wood and hit rocks, ultimately giving you the raw materials to craft DIY projects, of which there's like a gazillion in this game, and you can always catch a new one in a bottle washed up by the beach every day. Part of the gameplay that's quite engaging is catching new bugs, fish, and fossils. The bugs you obviously catch with your nets. It's kinda hard to find rare or new ones, but I recently caught a dung beetle that was eluding me. The things roll snowballs around and you have to sneak up on one like a ninja, but I finally caught one the other day. Okay, I'm kinda sidetracked there, but had to tell the story of the dung beetle. Now with fish, I've caught a couple rare big ones, including my most prized catch, the oarfish. And this is how big an oarfish actually is in real life. Yeah. What's funny is when you donate the fish to Blathers, the owl museum curator, they're always in a small little bag. Like I'm pretty sure an oarfish would not fit in there. Even a sea bass wouldn't fit in there. And speaking of which, you catch a lot of those if you go fishing like I do. So I just wish the drop rate for rare fish was a little bit higher. But fishing is a nice therapeutic part of this game overall. And catching those rare ones, oh boy, is that quite satisfying. Fossils are slightly less cool, as when you dig them out of the ground they all look the exact same. I felt it would be cooler that if when you dig them out you'd actually see something like a giant dinosaur head, but sadly that's not the case. Blathers has to assess the fossils, and later you see them in the true form in the museum. So there's that at least. And Blathers has plenty of interesting facts to tell you about whatever you catch for him. Some players may skip right past this, but hey, I'm a nerd, I'm down for facts about my oarfish. Anyway, the museum is one of many things I've helped open up during my first month on the island. This includes significantly expanding my house, getting a couple of neighbors, getting the Nook's Cranny shop opened, and a campsite. Landlord Tom Nook sends you on missions to build all this stuff, always giving you some broad, overarching goal. I'm glad this is the case, otherwise I'd probably spend too much time trying to catch more rare fish. This game gives you a way of feeling accomplished in the way of Nook Miles. You get Nook Miles for completing various tasks like selling stuff at Nook's Cranny or talking to your neighbors. Nook Miles can earn you lots of stuff like recipes for more durable tools. That was definitely helpful as now they don't break constantly. But for 2,000 Nook Miles you can get a Nook Miles ticket sending you to a different island. It's complete RNG whether you get a good island or not, and my luck has mostly been so far. I did get to the Bamboo Island twice, but I've never gotten to the legendary Rare Fish or Money Islands yet, but believe me, I'll keep trying. Oh, and speaking of money, this game has lots of ways to help you earn bells. There's planting money trees, teaching you to be a smart investor, and there's selling the hot item of the day to Timmy and Tommy. Sometimes the hot item ain't so hot, but sometimes it can sell for like 6,000 bells, so then it's definitely worth crafting some of those hot items. In general, the Animal Crossing world is better than the real-life world. That's why people have been playing it to escape the cruel world of 2020. I mean, money doesn't grow on trees in real life, and presents don't fall out of the sky in real life either. Presents are part of the great amount of customization you can do in this game, as my house is all decked out with stuff, like turntables that play music, a red dresser where I customize the color, and recently a punching bag and a football. I can punch the punching bag, but sadly, I can't throw the football. I know there's no shortage of DIY recipes and random presents to get, so I'll keep on playing, and that's part of what makes the gameplay for this game so addicting. All my complaints, such as wishing for more rare fish or rare islands, that's all nitpicking and me being greedy, so the gameplay gets an A+. Yep. Okay, so now we gotta get into something a little less cool, and that is the story/dialogue. As this isn't an adventure game where you progress through levels, the game is definitely more based on dialogue than it is based on any sort of story. It's built on interaction. So how is the interaction then? Kinda bland. My neighbors are pretty boring people. The only one who seems to have any sort of interesting character is the billy goat named Billy, who enjoys a good workout and says dag nabbit a lot. Timmy and Tommy say the same stuff at Nook's Cranny all the time, and I feel like their dialogue can get in the way. No, you don't need to thank me for selling sea bass for the 10 millionth time. I'm good. So I often find myself holding down B, speeding through dialogue. There's only a couple people who I actually find worth talking to. Of course, one of them is Tom Nook, as he helps me progress in the game. So he's useful to the gameplay element. But arguably the only one who's interesting to just have conversations with is Blathers the Owl, because I'm a nerd that wants to learn about whatever creature I just caught, as I already said. Besides, Blathers is the only one who has clever puns and can be funny. The puns you say whenever you catch a bug or fish, yeah, they're kinda lacking. Now, according to the more seasoned Animal Crossing player, Jaden Animations, the dialogue used to be more exciting in old games, and it's a shame because I wish it was that way in this game. I mean, it's still useful to talk to your neighbors as you can exchange gifts and gain Nook miles, but I have no real interest in terms of what they say, really. So, story/dialogue only gets a C for me, with Blathers and Billy redeeming it from being any worse. Okay, so controls. The controls aren't super important to this game as it's not a platformer game or a racing game, so all it really needs to do is not screw up in a major way. And I'd say New Horizons accomplishes that. I wouldn't say the controls are flawless, but it moves pretty smoothly. You can easily access your inventory by pressing X and your cell phone by pressing the left trigger. These are two of the most important parts of the game in my opinion. A is still probably your most important button though, as it's the action button so to speak. And because it can mean so many different things, I feel like sometimes it takes multiple tries for the game to pick up on it. Like whenever I'm trying to open a door or sit down, for example. Oh, and shoveling doesn't control great, as I often shovel up holes I don't mean to. Okay, maybe that's my fault for not being careful, but the point is, I don't think the controls are flawless. But they certainly don't break the game either, so I'd give the controls a B then. One thing that's definitely a bright spot in New Horizons is the beautiful graphics. Thing is, I've only played during the winter season, but I'm excited to play it in the other seasons as well. My only exposure to Animal Crossing before this game was in the Mario Kart track, and I always thought all 4 seasons looked really pretty there. So I imagine based on what winter has looked like for me so far, the other 3 would be quite pretty in this game as well, and I think based off of the reviews, yes it is. I mean, I could just time travel to see for myself, but that would be the lowest form of cheating. So all I can say is the snow, trees, and flowers all look very, very nice. Now while the characters may be bland, they all have a unique look. Like my one neighbor, Rocket, looks like a very strange version of Donkey Kong. I mean, he does. But yeah, this game is definitely one of the Switch's best when it comes to the presentation and how it looks. It's just such a pretty game. That's part of why people consider this game an escape. The Animal Crossing world is simply a prettier place than the real life world. It's sad, but true. And so the graphics get an A+. And finally, we must talk about the music. It's not quite an A+, but I'd say it's pretty close. The music can be quite calm and peaceful, fitting with the beautiful graphics we just talked about. You can ask the dog Isabelle to change the island tune if you ever get sick of it, which is nice. I was starting to get sick of the one song that was playing, but then Isabelle showed up on my island, so I can't really have that critique anymore. There's a selection of music to play, all of it putting you in a good mood. Now, the one critique I'd give is it's always the same music whenever you travel to an RNG island via Nook Miles. There's no changing that. It's the same tropical tune every time. And you have to buy music to play in your house. I know that shouldn't sound so bad, but it costs over 3,000 bells a track. And as far as I'm concerned, you can't even play a sample of it in the store, so you don't really know whether you'd like having that music around in the house. But honestly, that may just be more of a gameplay issue, which I already gave an A+ to, so oh well there. Anyway, the music is mostly great, it fits the island quite well, and so I will give it an A-. Okay then, so we have reached the verdict. What are my overall thoughts on this game? Well, let's go over the pros first. I would say that this game has excellent graphics and music. It just makes for a great atmosphere. Some of the best graphics and music really I've seen in a video game. It just puts your mind away to a peaceful place. It also has very, very addictive gameplay in terms of crafting all your DIY recipes, catching all sorts of bugs and fish and fossils and such. All sorts of addictive gameplay. The cons would be that your neighbors are boring, and sometimes the controls can be a little fussy, and sometimes your tools can be a little flimsy. But besides those little detracting things, this game is overall, I'd say, a masterpiece. 9.5 out of 10. The only Switch game I would even compare it to is Super Mario Odyssey in terms of the depth and how well polished it is. It's either that or Odyssey, I think, is the best game in the Switch library, at least in terms of what I've played so far. I know a lot of people say the Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild is a great game, but it's either this or Odyssey for me. It's, like I said, other than Odyssey, this right here is the most polished game in the Nintendo Switch library.